Hello, I'm Heather Ferguson, and you have found the Sonar Moment. The Sonar Moment, a monthly interview with CEOs from the Pacific Northwest. We're here at the beautiful Alex Goulden Hall in Victoria, Canada, and today we're going to be interviewing Sage Baker, CEO and founder, Q5 Innovations. I was struck by the fact that you are not even 40 yet, and you've managed some global transactions, and we were just talking about having 200 people reporting to you from all different cultures, mainly as a result of acquisitions that you'd made. So what's up with that?
I'm on the Express program.
You're on the Express program.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's through my whole career, nobody told me I couldn't.
Yeah.
And when they did, in the odd chance, that was just incentive to do it. And so I just did, and I progressed very quickly, and I've had fantastic opportunities for great experiences. So.
And that came from really your background early on.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I had a bit of a different upbringing. I didn't grow up in the upper middle class kind of urban lifestyle of most. Grew up without electricity till I was 13, and my parents bought 160 acres in the interior BC. I always say they're about 40 years ahead of their time because they were living with no impact and sustainable farming. And so we got up in the morning and milked the goats and the cows and did the chores and went to school. Worked hard.
That was quite different, though, wasn't it, from the kids in school and things like that?
And particularly once I got into the corporate world. I remember sitting in my first boardroom on a major transaction and feeling like I didn't belong. And it was quite different from everybody else's upbringing. Later on in my career, I celebrated that and accepted it, but it took me a little while.
So just explain for a minute what Q5 does.
Yeah.
I bet can you explain it to your children? Can they explain it to others?
Probably not. I still remember when my daughter used to say, when people would ask her what her mom does, she said, well, she sells drugs. I'm like, no, I sell the company that sells drugs. That's quite different. Q5, maybe start with the name.
Yeah.
The idea was most companies fail because they're focused on the 4 financial quarters. If we could have a company that was focused on the hypothetical 5th quarter that never actually comes, you're looking beyond those horizons. And short-term focus is what kills a lot of businesses. So we're trying to build a risk-mitigated approach of acquiring technology, not one, but a portfolio of technologies that we can move through at a multiple pace and then spin those off. So most companies, 1 product, if it fails, you're done. If it succeeds, great. We've got 10. We focus on 3. Each of those moves forward. If one of them fails, that's okay. We can bring more into the portfolio and continue. So it's a way to mitigate risk and really focus on innovation.
And your investors are good with the whole Q5 concept, because let's face it, short-term quarterly thinking is there for a reason.
Yeah, you have to find the right investors, and I think this has been a big piece as well. It's quality over quantity, and not everybody gets it. You sit down and they say, well, if you had 1 product focused in 1 industry, then I'd invest at the same valuation. Well, you're not the right investor for us, and that's okay. Yeah. But we have to find the people that you sit down, you have the conversation, and it resonates. They go, wow, this makes a lot of sense. And they also know that it might be 10 years. They'll see a much larger return, hopefully, knock on something wood, but it might take longer to get there. Yeah. And they're okay with that.
So just the concept of the express track, the leadership, all of that. How does that fit with Q5?
I think it's probably a combination of impatience and analysis. I used to use the example that I had the perfect combination of ambiguity and autonomy, because you have to do the analysis, but then at some point you have to trust your gut and be able to jump. And with Q5, that was the same thing. There's an amount of patience of looking for the right people to work with, looking for the right investor partners, looking for the right quality assets. That takes time and that takes patience. And then there's also that ability to trust your gut. Once you're there and you see it, go. There's something to be said about execution, and you have to go. And sometimes it's scary, but it's necessary.
So that's definitely out of your comfort zone then, right?
Yeah, I think a big piece of being an entrepreneur is sitting in discomfort. Yeah. And there's a quote that I've used through my whole life. I used to race motorcycles, and Mario Andretti said, if everything's under control, you're going too slow. And I firmly believe as an entrepreneur and as an executive, you have to know where that line is, where you're out of control, and you have to stay on this side of it, the good side of it. And that's what running a business is. So you know where that discomfort is. You have to hit that discomfort, manage it, so you don't push it down into your employees and your investors and all the partners that you're working with. But you have to be okay sitting in discomfort. You have to find it exhilarating. Scary, but exhilarating.
You also said to me, you have a kind of a personal mantra, know yourself, control yourself, give of yourself. What you were talking about was more of a continuum.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. Why is that such an important mantra for you?
Well, I think it goes back to your first question around the expedited path. And to me, I think human beings evolve personally over a lifetime, knowing yourself, controlling yourself, and then usually towards the end of life, finally figuring out of giving yourself. And my intent is to do that sooner. My intent is to say, I've worked on knowing myself really, really hard. I always will. It's a continual. Giving myself has to be something that I integrate into my day-to-day. And even my family life with my kids, that's the same piece. So I do look at it as an evolution over life and part of a continual growth. But if we can expedite that, work really hard at knowing yourself so you can give as well. We have to do more. We have to give back more. We have to take responsibility as a society. And if you can get those right groups of people together believing that and holding on to it, that's where the Miss America quote comes in.
The Miss America quote. We were just talking about the Miss America quote. Okay, so you got to tell everybody what the Miss America quote is.
Well, again, it sounds ridiculously cheesy, but people, when they ask me what I want to do, I want to make the world a better place. And I truly believe that we can make money at the same time. And there's that whole social equity, social entrepreneurship piece, but what we do should give back, should create benefit for society aside from purely monetary value. With Q5, it's really about finding the right products. One of our core areas of focus is medical detection and looking for ways to bring low-cost medical detection tools to developing countries. So over the past few years, because of manufacturing cost, optics and photonics have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and more cost-effective. So a device that used to have to fit on a table can now be this big and can be handheld. It used to cost $100,000, you can now sell it for $5,000. And that makes a difference. We can take diagnostic tools into rural countries and do it in a cost-effective way. And again, with a business model structured in the right way, you can still make money doing it. So.
I want to just come back to the idea of not fitting in, not fitting in through high school, not fitting in or feeling like you didn't fit in, because I think that's a really common feeling for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
And when we talked about it earlier, you mentioned to me that it gave you some sense of being an observer, and I just want to ask you a little bit more about that.
Yep. Yeah, I've always felt that way, and as you said, I think a lot of people do. I think I'm also an introvert, and when you exist in the business environment, you have to not be an introvert. It doesn't work very well if you are, especially if you're leading a company. Yeah. But not fitting in gives you that ability to observe. And the analogy that I use sometimes is that I'm able to anticipate somebody's thoughts before they verbalize it. And in a negotiation, that's quite helpful. In a business setting, that's quite helpful. And I didn't fit in. I was an athlete, but I was also an academic.
I think there's, when you're a leader, and you're a CEO, you're heading your own company, you're heading, other companies. There are times when you need to be a leader. There are times when you need to be a follower. Yeah. And tell me about the times you've had to be a follower.
It's a difficult balance to find, and I think that it's not always when and where you anticipate it's going to be. And there's been times where I've had to follow in transactions, particularly, and you have to do it in order to make things work smoothly. And I actually remember making a conscious decision to say I need to be more of a wallflower. I need to bite my tongue and I need to back off. And it's a difficult thing when that's not your natural instinct, and when you naturally step forward as a leader, but you have to realize that those times when you do bite your tongue can sometimes be the most effective, and those moments of silence are actually quite useful. And
maybe the observer, did you come to that conclusion because you were able to observe what was going on around you?
Yeah,
So,
I think I would like to take all the personal credit for it, but I can't. I also had a good friend when I was doing my master's, and he said, Sage, you're going to have to learn to like the taste of your own blood. And I didn't know what he meant, and he said, you have to bite your tongue.
Yeah.
Because when you're sitting in a room and you can come to an understanding of what the consensus is and who's feeling what and why, and then you want to jump to the conclusion, that doesn't help create buy-in.
Yeah.
So you bite your tongue and you watch them. You'll watch the penny drop for each person, and then you can then kind of step back in. But having that ability has been something that's been learned over time.
Coming back to the whole idea of fitting in, of giving back, I mean, there's a real set of values here that you obviously feel really strongly about.
I'm a hippie. Corporate hippie.
You're a corporate hippie. Is that what you're going to have on your tombstone?
I don't know. We'll see.
Here lies Sage, the corporate
Yeah,
hippie.
exactly. Create a new term.
Okay. So, well, what do you think? I mean, that's those two actually. It's a kind of an interesting dichotomy, isn't it? A corporate hippie.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
It is an absolute dichotomy, and it's something that I've had to battle with as my career has progressed and as I've grown to understand myself a little bit more. But it does come back to core values, you know, my true north of what I feel is okay, what matters to me, what makes me want to get up every morning and go to work.
Yeah.
And I work hard, and my family has to sacrifice for it, and they have to believe in what I'm doing as well.
Yeah.
So that's what my parents taught me. My parents taught me the benefit of collaboration and cooperation. My parents taught me that selflessness can actually be quite an asset in creating, but you can only do it surrounding yourself by the right people.
Yeah.
Because selflessness surrounded by takers is dangerous, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work. And I've experienced that as well. But yeah, the core foundation from my parents and over time, and you can't be anything else. You know in your gut what works and what doesn't.
Sage Baker, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's been a great interview.